I very much agree with you that those are the basic values of the corporation. So, Dean, how
I
you
think we're all
respond to
saying the same thing, that going forward, organizations and society itself will be looking for purpose-driven leaders. In America, the best-selling book of all time, commercial book of all time, I guess the Bible might be the best read book of all time in America, but the best-selling book of all time is by Rick Warren. It's called The Purpose-Driven Life. And I think going forward, we will look for purpose-driven organizations and purposeful leaders. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, not saying anything that my fellow panelists already haven't illumined, new leadership qualities will require folks at the top of organizations to be collaborative leaders and to share their leadership. As Drucker said, they must in a knowledge-driven economy. In fact, when Jack Welch first sat down with Peter in Claremont, California, when he became CEO of General Electric, the then largest industrial corporation in the world, he said, Dr. Drucker, I'm at the top of this great organization with 400,000 people. What should I do? And he said, well, first of all, Jack, you're wrong. You're actually at the bottom of this great organization, and your job is to support the 400,000 people who support your customers. I think beyond that formulation and that wisdom is that what those people, what your organization does must have a larger contribution to society.
Yes. Well, if I try to summarize what I just heard from this gentleman, I would say, I just recall a statement that's something I read from the book of her book, Francis on Leadership. And the sentence is, leadership is about how to be, but not how to do. Those are what we just heard from this gentleman. They're not talking about your challenge of enrolling more MBA students in the school, but those qualities and values that are more valid and solid and important. So I want to throw out another statement by Peter Drucker. He said, predicting the future can only get you in trouble. That echoes what we heard from the second section. And one cannot manage change. One can only be ahead of it. The most effective way to make change is to create. So we heard this sentence again and again and again, that we have to manage change, but try to create it. So let's make it practical, down to the earth, okay? Have you ever made any changes in your organization or institute you represent, and is it a successful one or a failure one? Does it bring a huge impact? What are the results? Share some of your experience with our audiences, okay? Who would like to take this challenge first?
If I start first, I think it's easier for me. In the government, in the whole civil service, of course, people would say, well, the government never changes. And from somebody looking from inside, of course, I always compare the government as like a huge aircraft carrier. If you want to tilt it for 5 degrees, in fact, you need to do a lot to make it move. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's easy to say introducing change. And of course, we all, at all times, we look for opportunities that naturally come up so that we could make use of that opportunity, stay ahead of change. Take, for example, the financial tsunami, which we have just, we're still going through this tsunami. But of course, every time we have a crisis, apart from managing the crisis, we always hope that there will be a group of colleagues within the organization that will look at the opportunities it offers. Opportunities where some of the things you might have been thinking for years to try to do and move this aircraft carrier a little bit. But when you have a crisis, it's much easier. And then you could get buy-in both from people working in your organization, which is very important, and also to get buy-in from other stakeholders. And I think In the government, of course, in the old days, is everything top-down. At the center, we decide, well, we change things doing from this way to that way. Nowadays, increasingly, we have to listen. We have to listen to the users, in the business sense, the customers. Now the customers have more say and will give us the lead to think of how and why we should make changes to the way we deliver service, to the quality, the standard of the quality of service, and in a way how we organize ourselves. So I think it's a very different experience in the public sector because we're talking about huge organization, and in a way we are driven by at times very competing objectives.
Okay, but can you quote an example that you ever attempt to
We
make a
have,
change?
from my own arena, I've done, well, I'm in charge of human resources. So civil service reform, we try to modernize our system of human resource management. But up till today, we are still unable to do what the private sector has done. For example, in terms of performance pay, we still haven't got variable performance pay introduced in the public sector, but we have done other things in modernizing the way we manage the civil service. But all these take time because, as I said, you have stakeholders within the service and you have also stakeholders in the community. And what they ask for at times are conflicting with each other.
Okay, thank you. And Dean,
Yes, I can offer a concrete example.
yes, I saw the changes when you joined the Drucker Graduate School, and
But I'll go back to my
Appreciate.
experience in government, if I might. I was Commissioner of Revenue, the dreaded tax man in my native Massachusetts. And when I became Commissioner of Revenue, I asked the career civil servants how long it was taking us to process refunds. In America, most of us are over-withheld upon, so 70% of all my customers would do a refund. And no one in my organization could tell me the answer to that question. They said, that's the wrong question. I said, excuse me? They said, well, we want to do arbitrage on the taxpayers. We want to keep the money for as long as possible.
which state is it?
So I said, you know, I think this is why the public distrusts us so much. So, no, I'm going to change the attitude and the behavior of this organization, if I can, with your help, and we're going to treat taxpayers like customers. So I wrote a letter to our 4 million customers on the face of the tax return that first year, and I said, here's my personal pledge and guarantee. If you're due a refund, you'll get one back in a month's time or less. And I signed my name, Ira A. Jackson, so they could audit my performance. I then turned to the organization and I said, how are we going to do it? Well, it turned out that it was taking 4 months on average to get a refund out. And with support, the kind that Hong Kong's civil service and leadership is providing its workers, by changing tax forms, by changing attitudes, by changing distribution, by bringing Drucker-like common sense insights that turned the equation upside down, my people, they, not me, got refunds out that first year to 2.7 million households in 11 days on average.
Wow.
So I think it's possible
Yes.
if we bring Drucker-like thinking to organizations and their purpose.